January-March 2025 ceasefire and its sudden collapse. In January 2025, the US and Qatar brokered a 42-day ceasefire with Israel and Hamas. But why did it collapse so suddenly? Let's go back to the beginning. After weeks of delay due to Israel's demands, the ceasefire brokered by the United States and Qatar finally began. On January 19, 2025, the plan had 3 phases. The first would be a 5-day hostage-for-prisoners swap. Then there would be a 5-day pause to allow aid into Gaza and 4 displaced Palestinians to return north through the Netzarim corridor. Finally, there would be a 32-day period for talks aimed at a longer-term truce. The first phase went well for both sides. Hamas released 25 hostages alive and 8 dead. Israel freed about 1,900 Palestinian prisoners. Displaced Palestinians were able to return north through Netzarim corridor, and daily aid deliveries were far higher than during the war. But in February, cracks began to appear. The two sides disagreed on what Phase 2 would look like. Hamas wanted an immediate Israeli withdrawal from Gaza City, while Israel wanted to keep fighting Hamas. The US presented the Witkoff plan, which called for a 5-day humanitarian pause. But Hamas rejected it, calling it a diversion. Mistrust grew and both sides accused each other of stalling. Then, on March 2nd, Israel cut off humanitarian aid and reduced electricity to Gaza, saying that Hamas was using the aid for military purposes. 3 days later, on March 5th, Hamas fired rockets at southern Israel. Israel responded with airstrikes, killing 7 Palestinian civilians. Over the next week, clashes continued to rise, and aid trucks were blocked. On March 18th, Israel carried out massive airstrikes, killing more than 400 people. This ended the truce in practice, even though it didn't legally expire until March 17th. So why did the ceasefire fail? Well, there are a few reasons. Both sides had high expectations going into the talks, but they weren't willing to compromise. Israel wanted to keep fighting Hamas, while Hamas wanted an immediate ceasefire. The US and Qatar couldn't get them to agree on a compromise. And as the talks dragged on, both sides lost patience. They began accusing each other of stalling, and eventually broke off negotiations entirely. The consequences of the failed ceasefire were severe. On March 17th, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in Gaza and Israel. They protested the continued violence and demanded peace, but their demands were ignored. 3 days later, on March 20th, with the ceasefire officially expired, aid agencies warned that Gaza was on the brink of famine and irreversible humanitarian collapse. So what happens now? Well, only the two sides know for sure. But one thing is certain, the bloodshed will continue unless they can reach a lasting ceasefire. Thank you for watching this episode. If you want to better understand global politics, follow along for more.